Hello, everybody, and welcome to Help Me Pivot, where we help people turn fear into confidence that creates cash. And I'm Gabrielle, your pivot coach, and I'm so excited about today's guest. Her name is JJ Conway, and she is a financial coach and a financial planner. And I'm going to let her explain the difference. But I'm so excited to have her here today because we're going to talk a little bit about helping people through these uncertain times with money, maybe a little bit of abundance. So I'm going to turn it over to her. Welcome, JJ. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited about what you're doing to help people take that fear and really transmute that into confidence so they can start seeing more cash flow in their life. People call me the queen of cash flow, and I am all about having more so that you can do more with your life.
The queen of cash flow. I love it. There are so many people struggling right now, JJ, with cash, with being unemployed. Some of us, we see our money dwindling. So it's really a good time to think about how I become more recession proof. So what advice would you have for people to prepare, or maybe what do I do right now, right? It would be one question. And then how do I prepare myself better for the future would be another good question.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where when you said financial coach versus financial planner, that speaks into both, because right now what a lot of people need is a financial coach that can help them sit down and find the areas of hope in their life that they can make the progress they want to make. And then once you've built something to really manage and start investing, then you want that financial planner to help you analyze it. And I offer both in one awesome package. So before I talk about what people need to do right now who may be seeing their cash flow dwindling, I want to first give hope, because a lot of people are laid off from work. A lot of people, the unemployment benefits are starting to run out. A lot of people are not being able to go back into the field that they originally wanted to, and they may feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so hamstrung, I cannot make money. But what I want to encourage you with is there are people out there who are booming right now. And not just the Amazons and the UPS store where everybody's mailing everything home. They're making lots of money, but there are little people in obscure industries that are also making money. So for example, my husband is a band director. And since this whole COVID thing has come up, people have developed little guards and shields for the instruments. And somebody designed that to keep the students, when they go back to school, from, spitting on each other. Like, somebody came up with that in this time of COVID, and now they're profiting by selling them to the schools. So there are so many stories that I could tell you of people who have actually found a way to take their experience and their contacts and their network and turn it into a COVID style business, which, like you said, you said recession proof. I kind of like the term future proof, because we don't know what's coming in the future, but with the things that your speakers have been talking about throughout this time together, and the financial strategies that I'm going to talk about today, we can absolutely make sure that whatever comes in the future, we are ready to handle it. So the first thing that I would recommend if somebody is really feeling the fear about their money is to sit down and do what I call my 3 easy steps to win with money. And that first step is to get really intentional about what you want to have happen. A lot of times we jump into this fray about, oh my goodness, I've got to find a new job, I've got to do this, and we get all frazzled and we wear out our energy without even realizing what's the main purpose. And so for some people, in fact, several professional women such as myself, speaking and traveling and doing those things, I have looked at this time as a realignment, and I've gotten intentional about what do I want to have at the end of this COVID situation. And already I'm seeing the fruit in my life of a stronger family, of deeper connections with my spouse, and then also cutting back the lifestyle is actually, forced cutting back the lifestyle. I can't shop the way I want to, right? But it's allowed me to put money in other places that has borne fruit. And it has allowed me to do more for the community that has borne fruit. So I just want to give that encouragement out there. No matter what you're facing right now, if you get intentional about what you really want, it helps set you and lead you and guide you into the path. So for me, I said, okay, I can't operate my business the way I used to. I've lost a significant amount of revenue because people, when they can't afford things, one of the first things they cut is coaching. That's actually something they should run to, right?
Yes.
To a coach, but natural fear is like, I'm going to cut that. Okay. So I understood that early on, and I made my classes free. Now, I am not telling your clients they need to go out there and make their classes free. I had enough investments and other streams of income that I could do that. Okay, so my online classes, I made them free this whole time. And what it did was it expanded my customer base beyond my wildest dreams.
Wow.
So they went to send out an update the other day. I was so surprised at how many people were in my list now. Like, I think I probably sent your assistant the wrong number because it's exploded. And so I was like, wow, this strategy may not have brought income, but it allowed me to have greater influence. And that was one of the things that I said intentionally, I want to use this. I don't want to seem callous about it, but this situation has happened. How can I turn this adversity into an advantage and use it to grow my family time and my influence? So I encourage everyone to get intentional about what they want and what they don't want and why is it important. So for example, one of the big whys in my life, what drives me in business, is I came home from military trip to find my house sold, my stuff thrown out, divorce papers. And when the dust settled, I had over $845,000 of debt. This is why this military physicist turned into a financial planner, because I didn't know how money worked real quick. It was the most humbling thing in the world, not having a place to live and then having to try to find a place to live. And then, nobody wants to rent to someone who doesn't have a place to live, right? Like, you don't have an address. That's not the renter you want in your property because they're probably been evicted, right? That's the traditional mindset. And so when you don't have a place to live and people are tired of you sleeping on your couches and you're trying to figure out how you're going to make life meet and you're calling all the banks and you're saying, I can't pay my bills. And they're like, well, aren't you muckety muck in the Air Force? And I'm like, I have good money, but I have $845,000 of debt. And for me, one of my big whys is my son is never going to have to sleep at the foot of my bed in a moldy basement apartment again. That is never going to have to happen to him unless he's going through a time of spiritual chastening, and that's not between him and God, but it'll have nothing to do with his mama. One of my biggest whys. And so, I'm intentional about that, and it drives everything. And so a lot of us right now, when we feel like we don't have enough income or we don't feel like we have enough cash flow to do what we need to do, we go after this and we go after that and we go after that and we go after that and we try this for a few minutes and try that. We're not being intentional about our time and, more importantly, our money and our energy. And when it's spread out like that, it's so diffuse, it's like a light bulb. The light bulb above me is so diffuse, it's lighting everything a little tiny bit. But when we need to make cash flow more ready in our life, we have to be focused, laser focused to go after what we want. So that's the very first thing that I would recommend if somebody is struggling. And then the next thing I would recommend.
Vision, right? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that sounds to me, that focus, right, that you're just speaking about sounds like a financial vision, right?
Yes. And I encourage people to, no kidding, write it down. Now, some people like to make vision boards. I get in a hurry and I always say I'm going to make a vision board, but sometimes I'm going to rush and I just write it on a sticky and pop it on my mirror. This is what and we're moving out of my house. So some of you might notice the echo, but we're moving out and there's still that sticky. My goals for 2020, that thing is staying on my mirror until my last day. So I see it every time. And I have found when you cast that vision, and you put it where you see it often and you reflect upon it often, here's what it does. And this is why most financial planners don't talk about this, but here's why it's so important. And you may have already covered this, but when I see that, this is my 2020 goals, this is what I want to have by the end of the year, I daydream about it. And I start walking in that energy, even if it's just for a second. I start thinking about how if I make what I want to make this year, if I have the relationship with my kids and my kids and my husband this year, if I'm taking the speaking engagements that I've been going after this year. Of course, COVID kind of messed that up, but we'll hold a high thought for 21. But when you see it and you just imagine it, now you're walking in the energy of it, even if but for a moment. And the more often you walk in that energy, the more likely you are to attract that into your life. And the more likely that you are to do the things you need to do financially to free up cash flow in your life so that you can have the life that you desire.
So step number 1, intention, right? Which
Yes.
kind of equals vision. Step number 2 was really enjoy the current situation and the blessings, right, by connecting, right? And you also spoke into generosity, giving away what you know for free, right? Educating people, spreading what you know, and you will attract more people that to you, right? To your business.
I'm kind of overlapping a couple different thoughts because being generous and giving what you have for free is really more in the third step. And so let me briefly, because you've already had a financial planner who talked about my second step, which is to make sure your 4 walls are covered, which is your housing and your transportation and your basic food and your basic clothing. That we don't want anybody going to work naked, right? So, make sure those things are covered and put that plan in place to make sure you've got what's necessary. I get way too many people come to me as a financial planner, and they are doing everything they can to pay those credit card bills because they're scared about their credit rating, but they haven't put shoes on their kids' feet and they haven't put food on the table, and they're getting sick and they're not getting the rest that they need because they're so worried about the credit. My thing is number 2 is take care of your 4 walls. But number 3, when we talk about generosity, that falls into look for ways to make more money. Now that's easier said than done for a lot of us, but a lot of us don't realize that we have passions and we have talents that have been gifted to us that can actually help us to make more money. And the way to find out really what works is to test the market. And you can test the market more easily when you give of yourself to the market. And so not only did my list grow when I released everything for free, but I got insight into which classes people really liked, which classes people had access to but didn't sign up for, which classes people signed up for but got 2 lessons in and then stopped. Now that's a lot of us. We start something all day long and we don't finish. So I never used to use that as research. But when you have hundreds and thousands of people signing up for your classes, you get this statistical analysis of, oh, everybody did, okay, 40% did this, this, and this, but they all stopped here. Then I was able to go back and say, oh, that video got a little long-winded. Oh, I went off on a rabbit trail about domestic violence or homelessness or any of the issues that are super important to me, and I didn't frame them properly. Like, you can go through and do that kind of market testing, and it's as simple as, let me post something on Facebook and see if it resonates. Let me try this idea out and try that idea out. See, I'm one of those financial planners who will tell you not to spend a whole lot of time or money or energy on an idea until you know it resonates with people who would be willing to pay you. That is something that a lot of people do. They buy into these business opportunities and they are so excited about it, but they didn't realize that their market share really cannot support that. And so that's one of the things where I tell people, look, you've got this idea, without giving all your pearls away, test it out. Make a post on Facebook and see who's interested. And when you get something that's shared 100 times and you get a video that's watched 1,000 times, now you realize, oh, I'm onto something that the world needs. Because I have this talk where I go through the 17 different businesses that I had where I just knew they were amazing. And either the business wasn't amazing or I wasn't amazing, but I finally found my niche, helping people win with money. And so that's really the third thing that I would recommend is if you're really strapped for cash, let's look at creative ways for you to turn what you know, and who you've been into a business that generates some more cash flow.
And would you recommend focusing in on one thing? Because you just mentioned you had 17 things, right? And I'm a person, I'm easily bored, so I like to have more than one thing. So would you recommend to have focus on that one business?
I absolutely recommend focusing on one value or goal or stream that's aligned with your intention. So in my case, all those 17 businesses weren't at the same time. They were things that I tried and didn't realize weren't a good business, and things that I thought was going to be fantastic, but the world wasn't going to pay for it, And then I even had one, Airport Walkers of America. Before 9/11, I created a website to help people know how to do their layovers so you could walk the airport. Back when the airports had the bins, you could put your luggage in and you could bring full-size toiletries and you could freshen up before you got on the plane. And this was before the internet was really big. The internet had just come out. So I'm telling people I'm older than I look, right? But I traveled 27, 26, 30 weekends out of the year. And so I knew a lot of our airports, and I would take the maps and I would scan them in, and the internet had just come out. So, you couldn't just go out there and find that, right? And so right as we're really starting to take off and people are really interested in this idea, 9/11 happens. And now you can't leave your bag and stow it in the airport. And if you're going to bring your carry-on, you're limited to the 3-ounce size, right? And it just changed the whole industry. And my little fledgling business that was finally starting to ramp off just crushed. And so that's when we have to pivot. But before you pivot, you have this fear. And that's why I really resonated with your title, because you have this fear that comes over with you. Like, I've put all my life and energy into this project, and it's starting to profit, and I was going to retire from the military, and I was going to do this full time. And now I have nothing. I have absolutely no business model. And I fast forward to today. I actually met someone at FinCon last year who's doing exactly what I was doing, but he's doing it for busy executives, and he made an app for it, and he looked at all the different places where you could get the 15-minute snooze at the airport and all those kinds of things. And I thought, wow, if I had just taken my idea and transitioned and pivoted, I would be the one with that app. I wouldn't have been able to sustain it. It wasn't my passion. Once I stopped traveling like that, I make way more money helping people get out of debt, So it's very important to focus, but I recommend people focus on what is your intention and what are your values. If my intention is to lead an international multi-million-dollar company empowering people to win with money, does this opportunity meet that? Does it help me along my goal, or doesn't it? And if it doesn't, then I have to release that to somebody else, because there's going to be somebody else who's better talented and better equipped to pursue that. This other speaking engagement comes along. Does it help me empower people to win with money? Okay, well, it's kind of aligned. It may not be 100%, but it helps me along my goal. I will take that. And so your intention becomes that filter through which you guard your time, your family's time, your energy, your health, your strength, and your money.
So whatever you do should be aligned with your intention, right? And I have one of my speakers, Dr. Betty Uribe, mentioned everything should be aligned with your values. So, both of those combined, I think, would be very, very useful. Now, a question I have for you is, what is the biggest money mistake people make? I would think that you would be a source of information there.
Well, there's two big. It depends on the category you're in. So people who don't have a lot of money, The biggest money mistake I find from people who don't have a lot of money is they spend a lot of their money on things that will not further their future while feeling like they don't have enough money to further their future. And so, for example, I teach classes in the mall first Saturday every month, free wealth building classes, and very few people want to come into my classes, but they will all line up for the $200 and $300 shoe release. And I have boys, I want them to look good, so I understand, but it's like we feel like we don't really have money, but we actually do have money, and we have a lot more than we need. And it takes a lot less than people think to secure their financial future. All it really takes is management. So that's people who feel like that's people who are more in a lower income that don't feel like they have a lot of money. That's the biggest thing I see. They'll go after get rich quick things, or, I'm going to buy into this program. It's going to make me millions overnight, or they'll spend a lot of money on the lotto, or they'll spend a lot of money on things that don't further them, but they feel like they have no money. But the people that make money, like I get a lot of clients who make 200, 300, 400, 500,000. I even had somebody who makes over 100,000 a month who came to me with $900 in his bank account. And he's like, I need help. And so that category of people, the biggest mistake that I see with money is they fall into a lot of the business and lifestyle myths that come along with, oh, you've got to spend a lot of money to make money. Oh, you've got to leverage debt. Oh, you've got to look the part, and you've got to drive this car or wear these shoes. And so by falling into those things and not executing them in a smart way, because I have a pair of red bottom shoes, I'm not going to lie, but there's a right and a wrong way to do things according to your values and how much money you have in the bank and how much cash flow you have. And so those are two kind of separate. I know, you asked the one thing, but I feel like one thing doesn't apply to all the stuff.
Right. So, and if I am unemployed right now and I'm struggling, I know this is another very hard question because it all depends, but how could I create cash relatively fast? Or is there no fast way to get cash? Let's just say I just got laid off and I'm worried, right?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Well, there are some ways to get some cash fast. I mean, it's hard to find jobs at this point because a lot of the quick jobs that you could get, of course, they're not hiring right now, but there are people hiring and there are opportunities to make money depending on your talents and skills. There are online tutoring jobs and there are things like that. Those are person to person specific. But for the general population, some things that work for everyone. Everyone has access to Amazon. And Amazon has an affiliate program. And if you're on Facebook or if you're on social media or if you like to email your friends or text your friends and you send Amazon links ever, you should be getting paid for that. And it may, you can make a good couple of hundred to couple $1,000s a month just off of Amazon affiliate. So that's why I have a whole class on that. And my biggest category of ladies who teach that class, we normally do it in person, but I have one online, is people in their 50s or 60s who are like, I'm tired of working. And this is even before COVID. Like I cannot stand up for another 8 hours all day long again. I'm done with that. What can I do to supplement my income and put enough money on my table? And so that's one thing to do. Another thing that anybody can do right now, anybody can do what's called picking. And if you've never heard that term, that's basically where you find things at thrift stores or at yard sales that are very, very cheap, and then you resell them. And people laugh, but when I got out of all that debt, there's three things that I did to help me get out of that debt. I did picking. I started a financial planning business after about 4 or 5 years, after I'd gotten out of all the consumer debt, and real estate investing. And so picking is something anybody can start right now. And real estate investing, whether you buy the house or not, is actually something anyone can start right now. Because real estate investors that have money still want to buy properties. Now, granted, depending on the nature of the property and the landlord situation, that's iffy. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time today talking about that, but I love real estate because it helps people starting over later in life catch up and build wealth when they don't have 40 years for the market, right? But if I lost my job today, and I pray that this is hypothetical and it never really happens, right? If I lost my business today, let me go back. If I was in the situation today that I was in 3.5 years ago, where I had a really bad car accident with brain injury and I wasn't able to work, I was basically a vegetable. What would I do if I was back in that position? I would leverage free things to make money, such as Amazon and other affiliate programs. That's one of the that's a foundation. That's $500 a month, $1,000 a month right there. Okay. Then I would look into what skill set do I have that's marketable, that people will pay me for right now. Okay, so at that time in my life, I really didn't have much of that I could do, because all of my stuff is built on my mind, and I was having memory lapses, and I was having transient alteration of awareness. Like, I would go walking down the street and forget where I was. Like, I couldn't do those things, right? But one thing that I could do is I could still talk to people and encourage them about their money. I don't know how that happened. I couldn't do it on a recurring basis where I felt comfortable charging you for a monthly coaching program. So I let go of all my coaching clients during that time. But whenever I had the strength and energy, I would post something on Facebook. Hey, I'm available for the next 2 hours. Give me a call. There is an excellent book. In most libraries, in electronic form or paper form, have this book called The $100 Startup. Excellent book for anybody who wants to find something in their passion that they can start right now. One of the stories that feeds into this advice is a young lady who did marketing, and she either got laid off, or I forget why she was late, had no job, and she had she was struggling, but she decided to put it out there on the internet. Hey, $25, I will take a look at your business plan. $25, run your business by me, and I'll let you know, if your marketing is any good or anything like that. And that's how she started. And she's making $100,000 a year simply just talking to people like that. But it's taking what you know. So if somebody's really good with travel is booming right now. Okay. If somebody's got skill set in advertising or marketing, or if someone's got here's one client I had. And this is how I want to give you this client, because it shows you that it works for everyone. I had a client who was in the hospitality industry, and she was in the industry in 9/11, and she was also in the industry when the recession happened in 2007-8. And so she knew what it took for a hotel to weather the storm. And I was like, there are a lot of new hotel owners who bought into their properties in the last 5-6 years who have no idea what they need to be doing right now. You know what they need to be doing. Boom, you've got a consulting gig. And so this applies in so many different industries. I have one person who's doing a dental consulting. She's showing dental offices how to streamline their processes. And you would think, well, is that a business? It wasn't a business, but she made it into a business. She found a need. And so that's what I would encourage. I would encourage everybody to do some kind of affiliate program if they do that. Like, if you post Amazon links, don't you ever post another one without getting paid for it. All right. But if you have any kind of skill where you can help somebody get from point A to point B, leverage that and work that talent so that you can start getting some money in. And I mean, another idea that everybody can do, because we're all on a growth journey, right? You don't have to be the expert. You can even say, you know what? I'm reading this book, and for the next 6 weeks, we're going to mastermind this once a week. Come on with me, only $25 to join my mastermind group. And you're growing and they're growing and you're all growing together. And now you're bringing in some income. And $25 a week or $25 a course doesn't sound like much for the first month. But if you got 10 people in there that first week, that's $250. And if they each brought in 3 or 4 friends because it was so good, now you're in the thousands, just like that. And you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to be this big name guru. You're just being your transparent, authentic self.
Wow. So you are such a wealth of information. I had a hard time. I was already taking notes like, oh my goodness, great ideas. So This is awesome because you're giving some tips right now how we can make money right now. And a question that came up is, so going to your website, right, you're offering some free classes. So do you offer how to do that Amazon affiliate, marketing?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
Actually, just for you all, I was going to stop making everything free this coming weekend because it's going to be the end of next week because it's going to be the end of July. But just for your listeners, I'm going to leave it open through August 15th. I'm going to leave it free.
Perfect.
And they can go out there and they can register for the Amazon. I talk about how I made money on Teachable. I talk about different ways that I use to make money. I don't talk about the picking because nobody wants to do that, but I really I got out of $120,000 of debt picking, going to thrift stores, filling up the $2 bag with everything that didn't sell that week, and then bringing it back the next week and co-signing it.
I definitely want to talk about how we can find you. But before, I have one last question because that's what I ask all of my speakers. It's a very simple one. What message would the 80-year-old JJ have for her friend?
Ooh, that is a good question. Because, normally we ask, well, what would you tell yourself 20 years ago? Let me think about that for a second. I think if I was 80 telling something to myself today, I think I would tell myself, don't limit yourself. Live your dream and live out the talents and giftings that you've been given. And stop playing small. Now I said it, now I got to go do it.
I love that. So now let's talk about how I can find you because you are a wealth of information. People need you right now. So where can we find all that beautiful material?
All right, absolutely. You can go to buildingwealthtogether.com. And when you go to buildingwealthtogether.com, you're going to see my classes as well as my podcast and an Ask JJ button where we do free financial coaching for people who want to get a question answered.
That is so exciting. Thank you so much. I feel that I attracted you at the right time because a lot of people around me are talking about money right now. Where do we find more money? This is awesome. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you being a speaker in this series and giving us some valuable tips and advice on how to weather the storm during these uncertain times. And I'm certain our paths will cross again because I'm going to stalk you. Thank you so much, JJ.
Thank you, Gabrielle.